Hello and welcome to the Change Gang podcast with me, your host, Laura Ordile. I'm here to help you hold on to your sanity and your soul as you move through big change in your life. I'm here to guide you, inform you, and hopefully help you to triumph over trauma and the long list of symptoms that come along with it. This podcast series is to bring knowledge, share stories, and open up conversation around hope for those of you that suffer with the difficulties that present themselves in your life, from diagnosed or undiagnosed trauma. Labeled or not, I know you need help, and so do those that have graciously taken the time to have these conversations with me. So let's get to it. Welcome to the week, Change Gang. I hope it's a wonderful one and has been a good one for you so far. We get to finish up my conversation with Sarah Yuen this week, and I'm so happy for that. I hope that you listened to last week's podcast. If you did not, go back to last Thursday's, have a listen to that conversation, and then come jump right back in here. And here we go. Here's Sarah.
I've realized over the course of my time, the way you reacted to the first fear, the first upset, is the way you will always react. And it creates the symptoms that you will experience. And this kind of came to me in a bit of a flash one day when I realized that the fight, flight and freeze that we all understand because we've all heard that and we know what that means. And we've all experienced a bit of it.
Yeah.
If you are somebody if you had three brothers and they all had a very abusive father, one of those brothers, when he was first exposed to the dad's anger or dad's wrath, may have reacted in a way that he's angry. He's going to fight him off. He may have thought, if I stand up to my dad, he might stop bashing me. And so his way of reacting to that father was to basically say, come on then, you've got no right to hit me. I'll take you on. And even if it ended up with being more bashing or whether it ended up with the father walking away, he set in motion a fight reaction to whatever trauma he might meet. And his symptoms will be anger, irritation, pain from tension, upset. If his next brother down, the middle brother's reaction is fear, and every time dad comes home drunk and comes down the hallway, he shakes, he's anxious, and he's not sure if he's going to hit his older brother because his older brother's standing up to him and seems to be fronting him. If that's the case, that child from then on will always be anxious and fearful in any difficult situation.
Wow.
And so the two brothers will have a completely different personality as a result of the same abuse. So then they get a younger brother. And let's say the younger brother not only has to deal with the fact that his father's abusive to him, but he's got to watch him potentially aggress his other two brothers, which is almost more scary to watch somebody you love being aggressed than you being aggressed.
Yeah.
And he may have a defense mechanism of, I'm just going to pull myself out of this. I'm not here. I'm not listening. There's a lot of screaming and shouting and pummeling going on in the other room. So, la, 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 I'm just not here, And they'll just dissociate. And dissociation is, that's a freeze mechanism. And so dissociation is probably one of the most, I think, grievous symptoms because it doesn't allow you to deal with anything. You literally have not dealt with anything from the very beginning of your existence. And next time you come, just lift yourself out of it. And it's not you doing it. It's your body deciding that you can't cope with this. We're going to pull you out of this and you can watch it as an observer. And so you can, when your client first comes to you and explains their symptoms, whether it be anger or fear or just going into difficult situations and freezing. I've had policemen who couldn't get out of the patrol car after a 30-year career in the police, and suddenly they can't get out of the patrol car and they don't understand why. And it's what happened to you when you were 6 months old, 3 months old. I don't know how it works. It's just magic. And then they're like, okay, she's off her trolley. I mean, it's grueling for the patient to have to live with these symptoms. And then it's grueling for the hypnotherapist to sit and listen to all these awful things that's happened to someone. I find myself, where does this guy live? I'm going to take him out because I'm so furious on their behalf. But then the reward is at the end when you see the joy of being released from this symptom that they've carried for so long. And I myself, as you said, and you started this podcast with it, that I had my own issues, and that's true. I had God knows how many issues packed inside my box. And I went to hypnotherapy, and the first 3 sessions were very nice, felt very nice. I didn't feel any different. I'm still, annoyed with him and upset about that, and getting better, starting to understand that maybe I was bringing some of this on myself, but getting better. And then I had a session where I just fell asleep. I don't remember a single thing. And when I woke up, everything was gone. And we've had our clients say it, haven't we? Like, oh my Lord, I've had such a change, but I can't explain it to you. And this is what I had driving home in the car from that session. There was like a series of revelations in my head that just went bang, 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 bang. And I was like, whoa, I'm now in a completely different paradigm as far as my life is concerned. And then I didn't react at all to the things I'd been reacting to before. And it's been 18 months now, because I got to sessions almost as late as my clients. And it's been 18 months now, and every day I wait for those feelings to come back. And sometimes they might start to come back, like I start to get irritated with somebody, and it starts and then just deflates. I'm like, ooh, that's different. Okay, whereas before, that might have annoyed me for days. And I don't like being annoyed. I don't think it's a good character trait. So whenever I got annoyed, I'd squash it. And that can be some of the worst things, that we're kind of self-regulating our own emotions. And the only way to self-regulate them is to squash them in a box when they need to come to the surface. But we think it can't come to the surface because I'm going to go nuts. And then, I'm going to ruin this relationship entirely. So it's so multifaceted, isn't it? I always say to my client, it should take about 6 sessions. I expect it to take about 6 sessions. It may take less, a lot less, might be 2. It might be more, but you'll know. You'll know when.
I love that. And you said a couple of important things in that too. And I love that you explained it in terms of how it happened to you too, because, you talk about going back and seeing things, learning things, knowing things, but sometimes you're not aware. You go and it works out itself in your mind somehow, and you don't see the things. You don't know what happened. Maybe you just fall asleep. And somehow it goes in and it takes care of that. So it's not always about having an awareness of totally what happened, or having an awareness of, oh, I understand exactly why this is the way it is now. It's just that it got fixed.
He doesn't want you to see it again. I mean, let's be honest. Something's happened. Your body's repressed the memory. And then that repressed memory is now inside of you. And then some woman turns up claiming to be a hypnotherapist, saying we're going to go down into this little box and find this thing that really upset you in the first place. And the body itself is like, no, I repressed it for a reason. She can't handle the truth, as they would say in A Few Good Men. We're not going back there. And it will throw you all sorts, like the man with the stutter. It'll throw you all sorts of different experiences that you've been through to try and get you to go away. And then it might think, well, this woman's not giving up. The client is coming every week, and this bloody hypnotherapist won't stop asking, what's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem? And so what I've found is the body will just put you to sleep. But the subconscious is always awake. If you're lying in bed and someone stands over you with an axe, you're going to wake up. So the subconscious is always awake. So the subconscious will then deal with the issue. It will subconsciously, I believe, I've no idea what I'm talking about, but I believe the subconscious then allows resolution, allows the self to go down and sort it out. It's all done and dusted, and then you wake up like you've entered Pollyanna land. I find that especially if there's child abuse, I haven't had a single client who was sexually abused as a child go back to the moment of being sexually abused and seeing it through their own eyes at that time. I've had one client, go back and see it from an observer's point of view, which was equally distressing. But we were on about session 15, and I think the body had just thought she's never going to go away unless I give her something. But everybody else has been shown snapshots of something related but irrelevant. And then they'll go to sleep and wake up and it's gone. And they'll even go back into what appears to be a previous life and show them something that relates to how they're feeling now from a previous life. And I don't know whether those memories are real or whether it's the body making something up just to really get rid of you, or whether we have those imprints in our body, which from our own DNA or from our great-great-great-great-grandfather's DNA. I mean, who knows how the body works. But if you've been through something really, really horrendous, in my experience, it will give you an analogy rather than that. But that analogy is enough to make you lose all the symptoms you're suffering. I just want to say that people will sit there saying, she's only been doing it for 7 years. How does she know anything? You know, if she read a book or two. And so I think what's important that I should state here is when I decided to investigate PTSD, I went to the military, who obviously I knew very well, and said, you know, hey, I've got the cure for PTSD. And they're like, yeah, sure you have. And I said, all right, I'll go away and show you. So I went away and I did 10 studies, which there's a book that people can have if they'd like, which I'm sure you'll give them a link to, where those 10 case histories showed how people used hypnotherapy to eliminate PTSD in 6 weeks. And I went back like with my Christmas present to the military and said, here's my 10 studies. And look, they all got over it in 6 weeks. I don't mean like feeling better. I mean, it's gone, totally gone. And they were interested, but still thought, you're a reporter, you know, what do you know? This was only, you know, some years after Afghanistan. And so I was banging on the door going, come on, I can sort this. I was banging on the Surgeon General's door and the head of the Defence Authority, and they were very receptive, but there was a huge wall, obviously, because of who I was. And then one of the guys that I treated in that study went to join a charity. And the charity came to me and said, we can see it works. We've seen the difference in him. So we're going to give you a blank open checkbook. You can just treat as many people as you like, treat as many as fast as you like, and we'll pay for it all. Police, health service, military, anybody. And so I started treating 5 people a day, roughly 7 days a week sometimes, for 2 to 3 years for this charity. So unlike most hypnotherapists who have people come to them for all sorts of things that are wrong with them, and they might only get, you know, serious psychosis, serious PTSD once in a blue moon, I was getting it 5 times a day. So this bulk of people taught me far more than anything I learned in hypnotherapy training. They showed me it in living life form, you know, and so this is why I started training other hypnotherapists, because I was like, oh my Lord, I need to take everything these guys have experienced, everything they've shown me, any which way but loose they got better, and tell everybody else, because this was like the biggest education I could have been given. So that's why I can sit with you today and I can say these things and explain is a pattern, there is a theme in everyone's life. Every single person with PTSD has a theme. When they find the theme, the symptoms disappear because they find the root of the theme, and then they understand I've been reacting this way since I was 2. And sometimes people will say, well, I found the cause of my PTSD and it was something that happened when I was 12. So why does this woman think that it's got to be childhood? You know, she's generalizing. Well, because I think from things I've heard from other people, you might have an analogy from when you were 12, because the body does not want to show that when you were 2, because it was too distressing. So I'll give you an analogy when you were 12, which was exactly the way you reacted when you were 2. So, I mean, we're all fumbling our way through, aren't we, as hypnotherapists every day?
Yes, we are. It's so funny because sometimes when something is so simple, people try to make it more difficult. And I see that so often, especially in the conversations, and, you know, people try to come and talk to you with the people that you're teaching. It's like, yeah, but should we try this, or should we do that, or do we need to add this, or will it work for that? And I love it because you're so consistent with your answers. It's like, just do this. If you just do this, you need to record yourself saying, just do this, because
it's a battering ram. You know, we have to have the confidence as hypnotherapists to know, 1, we're not in control. 2, we are simply tour guide Barbie, and the body will do what it wants. If it doesn't want to go into hypnotherapy today, it won't. If it wants to bring the person out midway through your wonderful session, it will. You have no control over it. All you can be is consistent. And that's, I think, a problem. And part of the reason for wanting to share the protocol I use, which is very simply every aspect of clinical hypnotherapy mashed together, but I had to make it look like a protocol for the military. If you start to waver yourself in your heart and think, oh, I've done 2 sessions, they're not getting better. Oh, okay, well, let's do a bit of healing over here. Oh, let's go over here. You are showing the ego part that you're scared of it. And you're showing that part inside that person that, oh, it's not working, it's not working. And these parts can be quite Machiavellian. You know, they've been pulling the strings inside this person for a long time, and protection can become terrorization.
Right.
You know, it wants to protect you from that, but to protect you from that is going to give you severe anxiety. And if you try to push away that severe anxiety, it will give you severe anger. And so you are dealing with a terrorist inside yourself. And I shouldn't say that for anybody who might be listening to this and that their own terrorist inside will go, oh, no. But it is somebody inside of you has control of all your bodily functions. And therefore, you as a hypnotherapist have to basically sit and look that person in the eye and say, we're not going anywhere. We're going to keep trying to come down there to find out what's wrong. I've got like 7 or 8 different ways of trying to get in that you might prefer. And I'm talking to the ego part, not the person. Poor person's just going along with it. And so maybe, as you know, the protocol is, the first is identify what you don't want anymore. And so that you can allow that ego part to say, you know, well, I don't like her going to work. She doesn't like meeting people. People are dangerous. And she's got a job which is, you know, a service job. And that's dangerous. So you're like, okay, so we've kind of begun to understand that there's a feeling of danger here. So then we say, okay, would the ego part like to come forward and tell us everything? 95% of the time, the ego part will sit there with its arms crossed, I imagine, going, no. And you have to accept, as the client and as the hypnotherapist, that's going to happen. You're going to have recalcitrant, upset, really angry parts of these people. And then so the third time you go in and you're like, well, you know, you must be really angry about something or with someone. You know, do you want to tell me who it is? And that might lure that part to come out to the client and say, yes, because no one's ever asked that question, because that's always been, you know, you're so angry with your father, but he's your father. So you've squashed it down because everyone's told you to love your father. Right. And then so we tried different ways in each time. And some people say, oh, it didn't work. You know, she said she's not angry with anyone. I don't know a single person who's not angry with anyone. But so it's like, should I do it again? It's like, no, it didn't like that method. Don't do that again. Let's try a different way. And so then the next way might be, well, would you like to take me back to the first time you ever felt scared? And again, the ego part. And by then, I imagine, in this crazy world we live in, I imagine the ego part's like, oh, for God's sake, she's here again. You know, and now she just wants something. Just give her something. And you'll get some picture of the inside of a garage that means nothing to you. But when you look back in 6 sessions, you'll suddenly be incredibly relevant as to why that garage meant something. It might have been your sanctuary from the family or whatever. And so it's consistency. Keep going. If you're working with a hypnotherapist, I say to my clients, do not leave me until you've got a eureka moment, and just hang in there. And if it doesn't work, just hang in there, because I have to show consistency to the client, but the client has to show consistency to the client. Has to show it's not going to give up. And sometimes you have to go around again, you know, and then suddenly the second time around it plays ball, because when you finish 6 sessions and it's sat there like that, you know, imagine a toddler, like, no, I'm not playing. No, I'm not going to tell anything. And then it's like, right, okay, 6 sessions are over. And it's like, oh, hang on a minute. I had someone focused on me for an hour every week. Where have they gone? It's like, well, you wouldn't play ball, so they've left. No. I'm ready to talk now. So then you have to go around again.
Yeah. And have you had that happen where somebody kind of stops and then they're like, no, we have to finish, and they come back and they work, and then, it finally shows up after maybe the second round or something, which is not normal. I mean, for the most part, that's why you set it up the way you set it up after all the work that you did. Most of the people were getting at that 6-ish session to where that was the breakthrough point, you know, somewhere within that time frame.
About 4, generally. 4 sessions was a breakthrough. I think I'd worn them down by 4. But yet everybody's different. Everybody's got things that are perhaps more upsetting than other things. We've all got that ego inside of us that is, you know, deciding what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. I'd never tell people, you know, it's definitely going to happen in this time. But then I remember when I was in training for hypnotherapy, my trainer said, never show any lack of confidence, and it will work, full stop. And he said, you got to put it in neon on your forehead. This will work. And so I'm actually quite famous for everything that happens, I see as a good thing. And I know a lot of my clients have said to me, for Lord's sake, is anything not going to be good? But they come and they say, I haven't slept all week. It's like that's a good thing. That means your mind is processing things and it wants you to know it. Okay. Oh, I'm so tired. I can't get out of bed. That's a good thing. The body wants you to stay in bed. It wants you to relax, wants you to regenerate, Oh, I've been so angry all week. Yeah, that's good. It's coming out. All this anger that is coming out. And I've cried all week. I couldn't stop crying. I cried from, Monday to Friday. It's like, yeah, that's good. It's all coming out. And I actually had one client finally after 6 weeks of this. Is anything ever bad? I was like, no. Anything that's happening is not bad. Anything that's happening is moving, So, and even if they're absolutely stuck and nothing's coming, they're not getting anything or whatever, then I just say it's okay. You are now aware you're being stymied. So just wait it out, last it out, like trying to get a toddler to sleep at night, You just have to do it every night until the toddler gets bored of sitting there looking at you sitting next to the cot, and they end up asleep.
Yeah, that's so right. And I think some of the stuff, I could go on and chat with you for a very long time because there's so much more to it in so many different ways in how things show up and the processes that people go through. And it's all a part of the process. There's not something that is way out there really. We could go into some of the really unique and interesting things because our mind is so unique and interesting, each one of us, and it's connected in so many different ways to the world and the universe. And so it's going to work through your particular issue in the way that it connects with the world.
Just never feel defeat, even if you're at your lowest ebb, even if you feel like, seriously, I remember myself getting to such a low ebb that I was Googling, the easiest, less painful way to commit suicide. And they don't put that stuff on Google. They're trying to tell you there's no way to do it. But I remember sitting for days trying to get me out of this planet. I have had enough. And it's like, never give up. When I was a TV reporter, I had a motto, which is I'm going through you, round you, over you, or I'll die. And it didn't matter. There was no stop. It was one way or another. I was keeping going unless someone killed me. And that would be like in the middle of Sudan and there's warlords and fighters on Ganga in the middle of the road. And I was like, no, I'm coming through. There's no way you're going to stop me. I remember facing down someone in Romania during the revolution and he had an AK-47 in my stomach. And I just looked him in the eye and said, I'm coming through. You can kill me if you want. And that guy immediately backed down. Because, when someone's not afraid, you have no power over them. And he realised that there's no point trying to frighten her. Got a gun in her stomach. She's just coming through. That's what the kind of person I was back then. And I've taken that into hypnotherapy. It's like, I'm not backing down. And if you decide you don't want to continue with hypnotherapy because it's been grueling for 4 weeks and you don't want to, I'm quite happy to see you walk away because I know you'll be back. I know it will get back to a point where you just can't take it anymore and you'll come back. And therefore, I don't worry about that. I don't worry about death then. I don't worry about failure now. When that person's ready, they'll come to you. If they come to you and then walk away, people say, what did I do wrong? Did I say something that would have made them not want hypnotherapy? It's like, no, just the part inside didn't want it right now.
And they get to that. And sadly, I wish it wasn't the last ditch effort that they come and try hypnotherapy because they've tried everything else and it doesn't work. But oftentimes that is where they're at. They're like, okay, I've tried everything. Let's just go ahead, give it a shot.
It's been so discredited, hypnotherapy. But if you go back to the Egyptian time, the Greek time, sleep therapy was the way they cured everything. They used to put someone in a sleep chamber for a week and leave them there. And then they'd come out and they'd be fine. And hypnotherapy has been discredited for a reason. I believe that there is a big pharma mafia, and I believe that profit is above any sense of well-being of the planet, and especially in the last few years. And I believe that hypnotherapy is so powerful. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen what it can achieve. It can cure scoliosis. It can straighten someone's spine. I've had that happen. And it can cure tumours. and it can eradicate illness in the bodies that's there one day and then a month later it's not. And this is a serious threat to anyone trying to make a profit out of illness. And so I feel that there's been a concerted campaign to say that, hypnotherapy, bohemian, hippie rubbish,
right.
And people then think, well, how can it work? There's no drug. It's not giving me anything, so some woman's going to talk at me for an hour. How can that work? And I agree. How can it work? Who knows? But it's so powerful. And my main mission is to get people off antidepressant drugs because they're no good for the body. They're not doing what the body needs. They're turning off natural processes in the body. And I've watched all my clients without me telling them to come off those drugs or anything. I've just watched them get to session 3 or 4 and say, I don't need these. And they throw them away. And sometimes, I might counsel, come down very slowly like a doctor would, come down a quarter at a time, half at a time or whatever. But it's like you've gone in with hypnotherapy. You've found all those natural resources of that person and that they are surging. And as they surge, all the serotonin, all the endorphins, all the dopamine is surging. And everything that those antidepressants was trying to do is just being overtaken. And just the total understanding of themselves, understanding of people, and sometimes just somebody listening who gets it.
Yeah, just to be heard sometimes. Absolutely true. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for this conversation. I hope you'll come back and join me because I know there's so much more to talk about around this and to share. And that's kind of the goal of these particular podcasts is to inform and encourage and help the people who are in the situations where they really do think I'm nuts or there's no help for me or I would rather just not be in this world. And I know that the help is there. That's why I'm doing this. And that's one of the things that I love about what you're doing because it's showing people time and time again, there is a way to help.
The effort that you're putting in, the success you're having with your patients, it's just wonderful to watch. I love watching everybody because we have a lovely big community, don't we, where we all share the, oh my Lord moments. Do you know what happened today? And just sharing the successes. I've never been on a podcast like this where you've sat and had time to talk at length. I'm used to like 2.5 minutes from my career. So it's a lovely model. And I really love the podcast. So it's brilliant.
I'm loving it too. And I'm excited for it to get out and connect with the people that it needs to connect with, because I know, like you do, that's why you gathered the people together to try and train them and get them to do this and help more people. And it was the perfect thing for me, because when I got into hypnotherapy, this was my goal, to be able to do it. And I didn't quite have the right skills or ingredients, in my little cake to make it the way that I wanted it to. Your training absolutely did that for me. And so thank you for that. And I know that you are starting to share more and more things. Hopefully, like I said, you'll come back and talk about some of that when you have that in place a little bit more. But they can go to the Beat Retreat to find you, and then you also list some people that you've trained in this particular.
But yes, that's a growing list, and I think it's really, really important because so many people come to us, don't they? And at the end, and they say, nobody understood me, nobody understood what was going on. And you see when they come in and they say, oh, I feel like this, I feel like this, I feel like this, and you think, yeah, absolutely, I fully understand why. And they're like, you do?
Right?
Like, yeah, I know what's going on. It's a template. It's like Lego. The body does have that Lego template inside it, and it reacts a certain way physiologically. And I say, yeah, I know exactly how you're feeling. And you just see that release in their shoulders. Like, oh my God, I haven't got to explain it. They don't think I'm mad. They're not going to put me on some ridiculous diagnosis or ridiculous medicine. And it's relief for them. And it's finding those people. I just want everybody who's feeling out of sorts, broken, to be able to walk into someone and say, this is how I feel. And they go, yep, yeah, I totally get it. I know what to do.
I know. I love that. That's my favorite thing right there too. That is my favorite thing, because I do see every day so many people, and I want to go and say, I can help you. I can help you.
Yeah. Like this bizarre person, aren't you, walking around in dinner parties, people start talking, I'm like, oh, you got back pain, I can get rid of that if you like. Yeah, come see me, I can get rid of it in a few weeks. And in the end, people just think you're nuts. Like, nothing's a problem. Every illness you've got, I can get rid of that. Or try this recording. I hand recordings out like sweeties. And they're like, oh, I've been to the doctor, I'm on steroids, I'm on antibiotics. I'm like, no, you don't need that. Take a bit of colloidal silver and then listen to this.
Start here.
Yeah, I hear myself. And sometimes I'm replying to people in Facebook and I'm like, Sarah, you sound like a lunatic. And you're like, yeah, but just keep going. And I've been led to this. And in every step of my life, I've been led. Everything I do, I was led into. And I've even been led around countries. I've got 5 dogs. I used to have 8 dogs. And literally 2 months before countries have put the block up to being able to fly into countries with dogs, something has come into my head and somebody said, you got to move, like right now. What do you mean? You've got to move, and circumstances will make it that I've had to move. And then 2 months later, that country will say, oh, we're not accepting any dogs coming in anymore. And you're like, wow, somebody moved me. And so just as in personally, I've been moved into places where I can work well and without a lot of present day stresses everyone else is suffering, I've been led professionally all the way through this learning curve. And I get led from book to book to book. When I need something new, it's like it gets given to me. I know it starts to sound like I've got some sort of savior complex, but it's not that. It's like somebody wants this information shared. And they want more and more people to have access to this, to rise above everything.
That's why we're here and that's why we're talking, is to put it out there even more. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And for anyone that wants to connect, all the information will be in the show notes. Sarah has some amazing resources. I send people to her website quite a lot just because she does have a lot of the free resources, a lot of information there about understanding maybe what you're going through, why it's happening, and the processes of how to help with that.
Just the things you've told me in the past 6 months or so, the change that you're making in people, that you have all those tools to help anyone as much as I do. So we are a little group of people that are capable of this, and that group's getting bigger and bigger. So they're more than go and read my book, but that's just what you do.
And they can go to my website and find some things on my website for that too. And that'll be in the show notes as well. And I have a particular setup specifically for trauma, PTSD, and it's there. So if you go to my website, definitely click on that particular part of it and go there. And I do reference your book in audio and in the PDF form because I think it's got some really valuable information just to see the stories and the cases that go through. So I'm going to end this up today and we'll chat some more another time. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being here with me. I truly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Very welcome.
All right. There we go, Change Gang. Off into the week. I hope that you'll meet me right here, same time next week. Have a great one.
I hope today's episode was interesting and helpful to you in some way. If so, find someone to share it with. Maybe it will help them too. If you'd like to know more about anything discussed here today, you can find all the places to connect with me and the guest speakers in the show notes. Or go to lauraordile.com, LauraOrdile.com, and you can reach out to me there. Until next time, ask when you need help, be kind to yourself, and have a happy day.